Hello, everybody. Scott Golden with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the Superstars of Wrestling review series. We are trying to foray through the year of 1990 with, the first half of the year missing. But anyway, the 12th of May in 1990 is our task for the moment, and as is with the time period quite often, there is notable stuff on this program. And I think one of the things I like about, I was thinking about this and talking with a friend last week about why I like wrestling from the 80s and early 90s up through about 92 more than I have ever liked anything today. And it's because episodically, TV mattered back then. Now, not to say that every week was, perfect and all that, but when you tuned into wrestling in the 80s and 90s, you could pretty well imagine that a story in a week's worth of programming was going to move along. Today, you could watch Raw and SmackDown and skip a month and come back, and you really haven't missed much. You wouldn't need to go, somebody new is on top, or somebody new came in all that often. And I think the benefit of wrestling in the 80s and 90s is, week by week, episodically, there'd at least be one story, most weeks, more often than not, that you could go, if I missed wrestling, I missed this or that. And I think that is a huge reason to me why, on top of character development, why people care more about what happened then than now. I don't think any company, even the companies that are doing things well now, although AEW is the closest I've seen since WCW Nitro 95 to 97, so easily in the last 25 years, AEW is the closest I've been to that. Because I care about what happened with the stories in AEW. I haven't cared about what happened in the stories with WWE in 20 years. Because they don't make it episodic television anymore. They just throw out an episode because we've got a TV contract and it doesn't matter anyway. Bushwhackers here. Playboy Buddy Rose is part of the Enhancement Tag Team. I didn't catch the name of the other person, but again, Buddy Rose, as I mentioned in the last episode we did, coming in, kind of getting, in 89 to 90, kind of getting a thank you for what he did for the sport in Portland, for lack of a better term, and the AWA and all that. I think at this point he's not, gonna draw major money, but I don't think he was meant to. Anyway, a bite of the butt by the Bushwhackers on Rose is there, and he actually falls through the ropes to the outside. Bushwhackers, of course, still a mainstay through 92, 93, something like that. They are feuding at this point in history with Rhythm and Blues, Honky Tonk Man, and Greg Valentine. And that kind of really launched at WrestleMania 6, so about a month before. That's mainly a house show feud. I don't remember them fighting on television too much. They might have had something on prime time, but I didn't get prime time till the end, which is so sad. Anyway, a battering ram on the other enhancement talent and a double gut buster. What's amazing to me looking back, I don't remember when it was, but it had to be late 88 to early 89. The Bushwhackers cutting a house show 30 to 60 second promo is the first wrestling memory I have. And then right after that was a Bobby Heenan promo, and the Bobby Heenan promo, going off on the Ultimate Warrior, who he called the Ultimate Moron, is what hooked me as a fan. I remember the moment vividly. I don't remember the content of the promo, but I remember thinking, hey, this guy's insulting people. What's this about? And Bobby Heenan, for me, is the reason I got into broadcasting. It's the reason I got into a profession, although not related to wrestling, where I can speak for a living. Bobby Heenan was it for me. And so He's the reason I did broadcasting in independent wrestling for 12 years. But it all traces back to that promo. Anyway, we go to an update from the Saturday night's main event about 2 or 3 weeks before. Bossman does the Bossman Slam on his former tag team, Twin Towers tag team partner Akeem. And then a run in from Ted DiBiase and Virgil, who beat down the Bossman, handcuff him to the ropes, and Bossman is relatively defenseless. Ted DiBiase cuts a short promo basically saying, hey, are you proud of this, Bossman? How does it feel to be in your own handcuffs? How does it feel to have justice served on you? Bossman basically, in a babyface turn, says he can't be bought and that, hey, he's going to get even with Ted DiBiase. Then we've got an enhancement match between a local enhancement guy and the Barbarian. Barbarian now officially managed by Bobby Heenan. Barbarian getting a singles push, I think might have been pushing towards the eventualness of maybe giving him, a run at the Intercontinental Championship or something like that. Not necessarily holding it, but building him up for that. Although Curt Hennig and Barbarian wouldn't have worked, maybe. I don't even know where they were going with it, but certainly they had a plan that didn't fully pan out. Barbarian, super strong guy, one of the many in the Samoan bloodline. Back elbow and the like, and a kick to the face. He ends up hitting with a top rope clothesline. 1, 2, 3 gets the win, and obviously Bobby Heenan very happy with his investment. We kind of see that run through another year or so. Maybe, man, is he still there in '92? I think he is still with Heenan at the beginning. No, it's a 6-month run because by '92, Heenan's finishing up with Flair. Anyway, Curt Hennig does an inset during an Intercontinental title match or qualifier, tournament match, not qualifier, tournament match between Dino Bravo and Brutus Beefcake. Beefcake hits a crossbody here on Bravo that is just amazing because he almost overshoots him. A super excited Brutus Beefcake. And it's interesting because Beefcake at this point, there's lore that if he hadn't gotten into the parasailing accident of June, July the same year, so a couple of months down the road here at most, I think it was July 4th, that he would have been the Intercontinental Champion at SummerSlam 90. Who knows how that would have turned out for him. But here, they're still doing the heels of the Curt Hennig and Brutus Beefcake feud. That is an interesting thing because Beefcake handed Hennig his first loss. Bravo at this point is he's insufferable in many matches. Gut wrench suplex, getting him back in. They brawl to the outside before the gut wrench suplex. Bravo at this point, he's done with the company within another year-ish, maybe beginning of '92 at most, and he passed away via being murdered in the beginning of 1993. So certainly rest in peace, Dino. But at this point, Bravo, whose best work probably came even before he was in the WWF. I would say his best work came from Montreal and that territory. But anyhow, really basic match here. Beefcake with knee lifts, Beefcake with punches to the midsection. And, I, looking back, wonder about, do you give Beefcake the Intercontinental title run as a thank you for being there since '84? Like, that to me is a valid thought. And that they didn't do it is just really interesting. Anyway, but again, the injury takes us out of that. Curt Hennig runs down and pulls Beefcake out of the ring as Jimmy Hart has distracted everybody, and then there is a double count out officially by the referee, eliminating both men from the tournament and thus basically making sure that Curt Hennig goes to the tournament final with Tito Santana, and so I think they have even more heat on their run. Then we go to a event center. I think they're hyping Boston Garden or maybe the Worcester Centrum the night before. But that was a main tour. So you'd have something like Worcester and then Boston the next day, or Providence, Rhode Island, and then Boston the next day. Boston and Providence both were every 4 to 6 week stops. Usually four, sometimes you'd get a 6 week stop. And Saturday night, the 2nd of July was the pump here. Just looking at the card that was promoted, some good stuff or good for the time period. I know a lot of people are critical, and I've gotten some PMs about you're so in love with this time period, and I am. Warlord and Tito Santana, Red Rooster and Haku, Coco Ware and the Genius, and the Rockers and the Orient Express are your main matches here. And I mean, you look at that, and you look at the number of Hall of Fame talents that are there. Actually, Big Boss Man and um, Ted DiBiase are here. Rude and Warrior on top, which Rude and Warrior on top was fun. Bobby Heenan does a lot of yelling and yammering in the general direction of things. He's basically promising that Rick Rude beat you before Warrior, he'll do it again. And obviously they didn't change the championship a lot. Obviously they didn't do heel champions at the time. I wish Vince had been more open in the '80s to having a heel champion with with a babyface chase, but he wasn't. I think that's a shame. I think a break from Hogan, even for 6 months in '87 to '89. Well, I mean, they did the Savage run, but that was another babyface at the time, and I think a heel run would have been interesting. The Rockers and Orient Express was a great tag feud at the time. They're coming off the WrestleMania 6 countout win. I remember that series of feuds being a major deal. I remember watching them at least once at a house show and really being excited by it. Even as a kid, like they did a lot of stuff. And that's interesting. Then we go back to an enhancement match with the Orient Express against two enhancement guys. Terry Daniels, I think, is one of them. At this point, this is the original Orient Express, Akio Sato, and Pat Tanaka. Tanaka underrated terribly, I think anyway, because he bumped around like $1 million, and he was a major guy in that 90 to 92 era, who I think is underrated. Santo, I don't know if he was here on a visa and there were issues. I don't know if he didn't like the schedule. I don't know why he disappeared so quickly and they went to the Kato character months in, but it was interesting. Lots of back elbows, lots of martial arts maneuvers. Mr. Fuji, of course, managing both guys here, and shots by Tanaka pretty quickly. Tanaka is more. I don't even know if I want to say Americanized, but I would say more in line with the bumping style of American wrestling at the time. He has an amazing flying forearm, which is really well done. Worth going out of your way to see if you've never seen an Orient Express match before. Probably with the Rockers is the best you're going to get. Also amazing is a sit-out power bomb by Santo at the time is your finish, which power bombs here in 1990, kind of a big thing. Brother Love is up next, the Brother Love show, which is a guilty pleasure of mine. And basically, Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire talk about bringing the Macho King and Sherry down to size. Dusty Rhodes up in the face of Brother Love, basically saying that there's no respect by the Macho King, Macho Man, etc. He cuts an amazing promo. The polka dots, black and yellow shirt is here. Although Rhodes wearing jeans onto the Brother Love set, I just find hilarious. Then we do an inset promo with the Bolsheviks. There is before the inset promo. There's some issues between the Bolsheviks in a WrestleMania challenge deal from the previous week. Boris Zukov um, apologized for Nikolai being Lithuanian, not true Russian. Jerry Monty and the Earthquake is up next. Of course, Earthquake coming in late in '89. By '90, they're still pushing him and actually heating him up for his biggest feud ever, as Hulk Hogan and Earthquake, the biggest match he would have in the territory, which happens at SummerSlam '90, and the summer leading up to that is all built around building to it. Big power slam by the Earthquake, and the Earthquake is again a super guy. And I mean, think about it. Earthquake comes in '89, has a feud with the Warrior, then goes to Hogan, then goes to a tag team. I mean, he did have an impactful run for the time. Of course, John Tenta, a big man who could move, and that helps. He Earthquake lays out the enhancement talent with several Earthquake splashes, and that's kind of there. During the match, there is an inset promo with Jim Duggan, who basically promises that he's going to get even with the Earthquake. Duggan comes down post match as they're putting the opponent on a stretcher and nails Earthquake with the board. 2x4, much like he did with Andre the Giant in '88. So Duggan beating up big heels, big nasty heels with a 2x4 is a big part of things. Then we go to a wonderful vignette with Rick Rude promising to beat the Warrior. Rude looks like $1,000,000 here. I mean, he looks good. He's hungry. You can see it in his eyes. This one, he's beating up a heavy bag and going to town. Tugboat, the best friend of Hulk Hogan at the time, at least in story, is an enhancement talent here. Of course, they've gotten rid of his last name. They originally bring him in as Tugboat Thomas. He's just the Tugboat here. There is a rumor that they were going to turn him on Hogan in time for WrestleMania 7. But that never happened. Sergeant Slaughter gets the role instead. They were going to go with Sheik Tugboat, according to lore. Brooklyn Brawler and Tugboat is a thing here. Hogan basically, endorsing Tugboat pretty heavily here. Clothesline attempts by Lombardi, aka the Brawler, doesn't get him anywhere. Big boot by Tugboat. Tugboat, of course, played by Fred Ottman, who eventually, because of WCW connections with Dusty Rhodes, who is his brother-in-law, comes in and does the Shockmaster thing. And that is, wrestling lore of a whole other comedy level. Anyway, big splash in the corner, and Tugboat manages to hit a vertical big splash. 1, 2, 3. The Tugger is your victor here. Again, we go to another. Event center. Dino Bravo kind of plugging upcoming matches. Dino at this point kind of lacking direction, in that he's not really in the midst of a feud. They kind of put him with Earthquake. It's kind of there to endorse the Earthquake character, but even that is minor in comparison. We see hype for a Dusty Rhodes and Randy Savage match. These Dusty promos not akin to his matches or the hype for um, the hype with the NWA type stuff. But again, they're plugging the Worcester Centrum, just a Worcester Centrum for the June 2nd, 3rd, something like that. The matches that are on tap, I think, are valuable in that way. And Red Rooster, Dino Bravo, Superfly Snooker, and the Barbarian, Bushwhackers and Rhythm and Blues again. You know, and that's another thing too. Matches that don't have feuds are a big thing, but then you always had at least 3 or 4 matches on top that were feud related. Savage and Rhodes and Sapphire and Sherry are main matches for this particular card, and I can imagine that getting over with the crowd at the time. Anyway, so that will close us for this week. There is a missing episode. We will be back with one more episode from the month of May. But in any event, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.